Hi folks, TJ here. Radio cast for the Crash radio station number 7, I think. 7? It's probably 7. I think it's 7. And what did I think I would do today? How about vintage computer collectors versus vintage computer users? A battle of the wits, a battle of the minds, a battle of... I don't know. I don't have any battles in my mind. It's early morning. In fact, I've got a coffee over here I've got to grab. I'm a little tired, but I thought it would be kind of fun. Nothing against collectors, nothing against users, nothing against the two. Is there a third? I mean, you've got collectors, users, then you've got ones that are kind of in the middle, that collect and use, which is more me. And I wanted to talk about what I do, but I also wanted to talk about what you do. This radio cast should, I think, maybe come out tomorrow if I get it uploaded to Sonic quick enough. I'm a little slow this week. Like I said, I've been busy. I've had a lot of stuff going on. But are you a vintage computer collector only? Are you a vintage computer user only? I mean, I guess technically if you're a user, you own some, but does that make you a collector? Not necessarily, in my opinion, because collecting is you're buying something, it's a really touchy slope. I don't know. How should I break this down? A collector can collect and never use, which is not me. A collector can also buy and then periodically use. It's a very slippery slope. So let's chat about it. Again, what are you? I consider myself a user first. And then I will say, yes, you can be a collector because you want to collect, like for Sinclair, for example. I was never a Sinclairian before 2018 or whatever when I started exploring the Speccy Next and falling in love with it. And then I fell in love with it and then started wanting to collect most all models to use. Not just to have saying that I own all the Sinclairs. In fact, I don't. I don't own a number of them. And I probably never will own it all because I don't own a rubber key original Speccy 16, 48. And then you got versions of everything in between. Then you got all these Russian versions. I don't want to get into foreign versions. Let's stick with the manufacturer because trying to collect everything for anything is pure madness. Yeah, I started wanting to collect as many as I could, but I wanted to collect them to learn how to use them and to see what you experienced as youths back in the day over in UK and all the other places that you would back in the 80s buy a Speccy. I wanted to experience it. Yeah, I guess you can be a collector and a user. Well, I knew you could do that, but you could be considered a collector if you considered yourself a user only. Gee, I sound like a hobbit. In Lord of the Rings when Bilbo does that little limerick rhyme thing and I like half you as much as the other half or whatever it is, but everybody's kind of puzzled thinking, what did he just say? That's kind of me this morning. What did I just say? I don't know what I'm saying. Let me have a sip of my drink. I've got a cappuccino type of drink. Trying to wake myself up in the morning, so let's go back to. So yes, I'm a collector, but I'm a user. User first, collector second, or half and half. Like I said, I wanted to purchase as many Speccies as I could to learn how to use them because ultimately I have a YouTube channel. Obviously, you know that. You watch it. And I like to make videos on everything. So having a good selection to pull from, because if somebody comes out with something new, it'd be nice to, does this widget work on the Speccy Plus 2? Does it work on the toast rack? Does it work on this? Does it work on that? It's nice to have them all at your arsenal to test because people ultimately will ask, hey, does it work with mine? So it's nice to be able to be a full service shop, my YouTube channel, that covers as many bases as I can. But I'm a user first, in my opinion, because everything I buy, I use. Now, technically, I may not use it every week, every month, maybe once or twice a year for some of the older stuff, because behind me, this will be a video in a few days after the Radiocast is done. I have the Speccy next behind me. That gets the majority of my Speccy use these days. Over to a cabinet to my right, I've got a number of my Speccies. I've got the Speccy Plus, the Toast Rack. I've got a number of Timex Sinclair computers that, like the TS2068, which is basically a Speccy. And I've got a number of other things over there that I can quickly pull from. Before I got the Next, I was hot and heavy on the Toast Rack. I use that the most. That, in my opinion, is the ultimate Speccy to have if you're going to have the original steel, the original metal. But I use that up until I got my Next. Since getting my Next, I would say once every few months at best, I will bring out my Toast Rack, spark it up, play a few games, put it back. And kind of do a rotation of things. So if I do that with the Toast Rack in 4 months, then in 5 months, I'll bring out like my Plus 2, which is not working right now properly, so I don't bring it out as much. The tape recorder stopped working on it. See, that's what happens. I think if you let old stuff lie and you don't turn it on once in a while, it just conveniently dies on you. It's like, hey, I need to be charged up a little bit. I need to do my thing. And I'll admit that I don't use it as much anymore. So was it my fault that my Plus 2 stopped working? Or was it just fate that it's a 30-some-odd-year-old computer that's destined to fail at some point? Stuff does fail on these old computers. But I think if you keep things running periodically, it gives them a little bit more life. So, yeah, maybe part of me is to blame. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm a user first. And I try to rotate things through. So I have behind me, I'm panning around my chair, I've got a little open spot here, which I will move my Next out of the way or push it back and bring up my Toast Rack or Plus 3. To tell you the truth, I don't use my Plus 2 or Plus 3 that much. The Plus 3, really, if you think about it, even though it's a Amstrad-ified computer, it's got a floppy drive built in. I own one floppy disk for a Speccy. And that's Tetris, I think, that came with my Plus 3. And I've only used it a handful of times. On that one, maybe once a year, I'll bring it out and just kind of spark it up. Am I doing it a service or disservice? I don't know, but at least I am using them. So let's talk about collectors a little bit. I'll kind of jump around here a little bit. Collectors, the way I look at it, are on a mission. I'll admit, when I first started buying Speccies, I couldn't sleep. I would be up late at night in my bed, perusing eBay, looking for the greatest deal on a Speccy whatever. So the part of the hunt, I guess humans like hunting things, right? Now we get our spears out, and instead of the spear, it's a credit card, and we bring it out, and the excitement of finding that widget that you want at a fair price and buying it is fun. It's not fun when you have to pay the credit card all off later, but it is fun, that hunt of buying something. So I have a feeling, and I don't want to speak for them, so if you're a collector, post down below in the video, or if you're listening to the Radiocast, go to the Crash Radio channel on Facebook, and I'm sure Sonic will post a link that, hey, TJ's talks on today. Post in that thread if you're strictly a collector and never use any of these computers. What drives you? Is it the hunt? Is it just to buy and have one of a widget so you can say, I own one? I mean, it's whatever it is. I'm not knocking it, but I'm sure there's some collectors that like to say, yes, I own one or two of those. They never turn them on. Some of them are afraid to turn them on because they've been sitting for so long. They're maybe afraid that what was supposed to work doesn't, and then they'll feel, hey, I don't really have a great, like a Falcon, Atari Falcon. Imagine letting a Falcon sit in a box and never using it for years. If you think it works, it's worth more money, I guess, to your head, but I would prefer it to be used. But what drives you collectors? Is it strictly the hunt, the collecting part, getting a good deal on having one, or having that street cred, I own one or two of these? I'm not knocking it, but is that part of it? Or is the hunt the main thing? What ultimately are you, collector, going to do with these devices? Are you handing them down to your kids? Most of the time, I'm thinking our kids probably don't give a hoot. I don't have kids. I've got fuzzy kids. If I gave the Falcon to my dog, it'd be chewed on. So I don't let them in my office. Although the cats come in my office and they step all over shit and it pisses me off. That's another story. Anyway, so the odds are, I mean, maybe as money, hey, kid, here, you're my kid. You can have this. Sell it for whatever it's worth after I'm gone. I don't know. What is your angle? What is it that you'll ultimately do? Will you donate it all to a computer museum? Now, if that's why you're collecting and then you're ultimately donating it all, that's pretty cool. I'll admit that is pretty cool. But then at the same time, computer museums probably do pretty good at collecting and getting Falcons and other widgets. Having a backup's not a good idea, but they're also limited on space. So they probably don't want, I don't want to speak for them again, but do they want 10 Falcons? Maybe. Doubtful. They're a computer museum, so they probably want to have a main one and a backup. And sometimes the cooler computer museums have shit running where you could go in and play with them, which is really cool. By the way, do they allow soft drinks like I'm about to drink my coffee in a computer museum that's running? I would think there should be a sign that says, no beverages, no food beyond this point. Because if somebody spills French fry in between my keyboard and my Falcon, I'm going to kick some ass. Although my Falcon is 2.5 feet away from this drink. So technically I could have what's the word for being, I don't know, Hollywood about it. I could trip and fall over myself right now and spill it all over my Falcon. That dumbass bastard. But I'm keeping it over here. So yeah, collectors, what makes you tick? Because I could say as a user / collector, what makes me tick is I want to buy it and use it. Sure, having a little street cred of TJ owns a Falcon is pretty kick-ass, I'll admit, and it gives you a little bit of a good feeling. But using it and turning it on and playing a game on it that was designed for it from the 80s and 90s, or whatever computer you have, is really cool. So there's that fun factor that overrides everything for me. I want to play this thing, step back in time to feel like a kid from the 80s and 90s. That's much bigger to me than being a collector, saying I own one or two of these things. Again, nothing wrong. I don't want to say collectors are bad. I don't want to say they're good until I find out what their ultimate goal is. And then again, it's their money. They could do what the hell they want with it. But I just can't picture myself buying a Falcon, having it in a box, and never doing anything with it other than taking it. Say they take it to a show once a year and not even turn it on, just look at it. It's not good enough for me. It should be turned on and used. But that's me. How about you? I'm pointing at the camera right now. How about you? These things I feel should be used, and I feel like I was kicking myself a little earlier. My +2 that did work fully still works, but the cassette no longer loads. So I need to get that fixed at some point. Can I fix it? I don't know. I'm not a repair person. I have read that there's a particular area that gets some dry rot on it, and if you inspect that, maybe resolder a little bit. And I do have a new soldering machine, but I'm no solderer. Solderer. I know some people, I say solder. Solder? I don't know. It's a gooey substance that gets hard, like snot, that then stays put. Oh boy. I should have had 2 coffees before doing this video. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a user collector. Mostly user. I do collect a few things, and yes, there's some that have been replaced with newer, like the Speccy Next back there, because the Speccy Next does everything I want, but I still do periodically go back to my olden computers, vintage computers. I do turn them on, I do use them, and then since I did my Speccy toast rack last time, instead I'll do the +3 the next time. So I kind of semi-rotate through things. I'll clean off a desk, and it'll be maybe the +3 weekend. I'll play some games, I'll just make sure it still works, and then I'll put it back. I don't even put it back in the box. I have a display area that I kind of semi-stick stuff in so I can get quicker access to it. And then I enjoy it for a weekend, and then I move things around and shift things around. That's what I do. What do you do? I'm pointing at the camera. If you're a user, are you kind of like me? You collect, yes, but you mostly use, and you collect because you have an ultimate goal that you want to, be able to test things. Like maybe you make games and you want to make sure it works on the 16, the 48, the plus, the toast rack, the plus 2, plus 2. You want them all there to be able to test. As you probably follow my channel, I created a game for the Speccy 48 called Invasion of the Cod People years ago. I created it on my Omni laptop, which is kind of a clone of the 48K Speccy in terms of appearance, but it's got a little laptop top to it, a screen, and it's got a lot more memory, and it's kind of like a 128 in there. Very bitchin' computer. I created my first game, but I created it in Speccy 48K Basic. I wanted to go and have that experience. And then I had an ultimate idea. Okay, TJ, if you're going to make this game, you're going to put it up someplace for people to use it. You're going to want to make sure that it works on many of the Speccies that people may own. So that's one of the big reasons back then I purchased more. As a collector, I wanted to collect them, but I wanted to then test my game on each one to make sure it booted and ran to some degree, and then I could say, yes, it should work on any of these Speccies. That's what I did, and I enjoy that part. But then, again, I don't want to get down on collectors, but I couldn't imagine just buying my toast rack, for example, and sticking it in a box and never using it at all. I just couldn't do that. Now, some may say, well, TJ, you want to use yours 4 times a year. Every quarter, I bring my toast rack out, and so every 3 months, I bring it out. That's not often enough. You need to bring it out and use it weekly. So there's that level of user. I'm not that crazy. I just have too many things. In a given week, I only have so many hours, and I've got all these Ataris. I've got an Auric Atmos, which doesn't get enough attention. I've got my Timex Sinclair computers. I've got Aquarius. I've got Intellivision. I've got Odyssey. I've got a boatload of stuff that I make videos for because I enjoy it, and I rotate things around, and I play them. So I've got my cattle prods in a lot of fires to make videos, obviously, for my channel and to enjoy, and just to be able to, that week, say, this was an Atari week. I had a kick-ass time playing my Mega 2 computer using Spectrum, not Spectrum, Spectre GCR, so I could run an old System 6 application. That excites me. What excites you? So, yeah, collector. If on one side, I'm going to put my drink down. Oh, it's next to a keyboard. But it's not it's a new keyboard. It's a USB. So if I blow that one up, it's not that big of a deal. Well, it is. But on the left side, we're going to play some dodgeball. On the left side, we have collectors. Collectors only. On the right side, we have users only. And in the middle, we have user/collector. And we've got dodgeballs. Who do you want to be? I don't think I'd want to actually be in the middle now that I think about it, because the collector onlys are going to kick your ass in the middle, and the user only is going to kick your ass in the middle. You got a lot of balls flying your way, and I'm not good with balls. Bouncing balls in video games. That's where we're going. Other balls are fine. But yeah, so imagine you're playing dodgeball. Who do you want to be? Who's the tougher of the crew? We're all fine. Collectors are cool. Users are cool. User collector in the middle is cool. Is there somebody I'm forgetting? I don't think so. I can't think of any. I mean, maybe the garbage man that likes collecting old computers for the gold on PC boards. Those guys are bastards. I don't like them because they're tearing apart a perfectly good working computer. So maybe there is another one. Recyclers. I'm sure there's probably even other ones. Thieves that come in and steal. Like, what would they do with a Falcon? They would come in, they steal everything, and they go back and say, what is this piece of shit? This thing doesn't run Windows. It doesn't run Linux. They won't know what to do with it, and then they'll throw it in the corner of their methamphetamine corner where they brew all their drugs and shit. I don't know where this video's going, but it's really taken a really crazy turn. Anyway, I think that's it. The Crash Radio number 7 is basically collector versus user, and then you've got the people in the middle. I think the majority of us are probably people in the middle. because there's probably only so many collectors that have lots of buku money that buy only to say they have one. Majority of them, I think, hopefully they have great visions of either donating it to some museum, or even if they make a little bit of, or even if they sell it to said museum, they don't do it for profit. They do it for longevity of the equipment. Like, you know, this is great to have as a backup, and you might want to, you know, use this one for something else. You know, so if they have good intentions, I think that's cool. Or even if their intention is to give it to their kids, as long as that kid is given a contract that says you will not sell this for drug money, you will not do bad things with it. If you're going to sell it for money to help your family, that's perfectly fine. But if you're going to do it for bad juju, we don't want you to do that. They have to have a contract. But are you going to give it to your kids? I would think most kids don't give a crap about. There's a few cool ones that go, this is really cool stuff. But majority of them probably don't give a hoot about old vintage computers. It's just the way it is. And then there's the users. What are we going to do with our gear? I mean, I'm in that situation, I guess. My wife doesn't care about this stuff. So at some point when I get even older than I am, will I just start selling my stuff before it's too late? It's kind of like pets. My wife and we're in our late 50s. We've got young dogs right now that are 1 and 2. If all goes well, they live to 13, 14, 15, which means we'll be around 70. We may have one more batch of dogs in us, because at 70, I don't know if I want to have a young, energetic dog in my mid-80s. A senile old fart dog, I think I'd be fine with, but one that's going to run you ragged, or you have, you know, health permitting, that, you know, you don't want to kick the bucket before they do. And if both you and your wife have issues, what's going to happen with the pets? So in that vein, or in that thought, what are you going to do with all these computers? I don't have kids. I don't have kid-in-laws or anything that would really care what's going to happen with all my stuff. So what am I going to do at that old age? So I'm going to guess probably when I'm in my 80s, if I'm healthy, I'll start paring down my stuff, keeping a few ones that really make my heart still tick so I can enjoy my later years. But I may not have everything. I probably keep the Falcon, for example, and maybe one other Atari, maybe the Mega STE, so I can enjoy playing games and stuff on it. But then get rid of all the other STTTs type of stuff, because, again, I'm old, and it's going to be a little easier to sell 1 or 2 things than a whole bunch. So we have to start thinking of those things. We're all getting older, right? So as users, what are we going to do? I guess we could say we'll donate it to some computer museum. But again, how many of those are out there that really want some of this stuff? I know some will. And some may take it to then sell it to make money to keep their museum open, which is, I think, acceptable. That would work fine. But we need to look at those things. What are we going to do with our stuff when we get too old to care for it? So I don't know what I'm going to name this video. Is it that I'm getting too old to care for my Atari? Too old to care for my Speccy? I don't know. Anyway, this was Crash Radio number 7 for TJ Talks. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Maybe it makes your mind think, you know, I'm up in my 50s or 60s. I don't know how old you are. There's a certain point where we need to start thinking about these things. And maybe now, before it's too late, to start thinking about what will I do with my vintage computer collection when the time comes. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you watch this video a few days later, Crash Radio number 7. Bye.